I've not been a fluffer.
A fluffer. A fluffer. Oh, is that what they are?
Oh yeah, no. Isn't that a pornographic term? Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. Someone who gets the man ready for the. Yeah.
Charming.
Not a pleasant job. Well, I don't know. It pays well, I suppose. Anyway.
Right.
No, I didn't
Enough.
say that. That's going to be on the internet now,
Enough
isn't it?
porn.
I first wrote it years ago when I first started. My idea was just to write a piece about a man who was who'd survived the aftermath of a war or whatever it was originally, but then it's changed since then. With just a mobile phone that didn't work, and he was trying to get in touch with civilization with his mobile phone. But I don't really know what my inspirations were. All my inspirations for anything that I write are usually comic, you know, it's Python or the Marx Brothers, my original inspirers. Spike Milligan to a degree. There was the strange Spike Milligan film called The Bed Sitting Room, which is a weird, odd and difficult to stomach sort of film that's so full of nonsense it's kind of hard to watch, but strangely appealing in that way. And bleak as well. It had this bleak element that I wanted to, that I'm trying to reciprocate in this film. Reciprocate, that is completely the wrong word, isn't it? But replicate in this film.
Everyone who has died as a result of the probiotic fever has been heard to mutter as their last words, "Beware the gerrymanders."
I wanted a simple sort of catchphrase, a simple soundbite for the film, and I wanted it to be something that didn't make sense, that happened throughout the film and then was explained at the end. And so I thought, what if the dying characters, or rather the surviving characters, all heard a phrase that would seem to make no sense. And so basically I looked in the dictionary for a word that seemed appealing, and I was looking under G and I came up with, I saw gerrymander. It's a word I'd never come across before. And so I just pinched it.
What else do you know about the gerrymanders?
Nothing. Why? What is it? Who are the gerrymanders?
Don't ask who are the gerrymanders, ask what.
Alright then, what are the gerrymanders? My influence as a writer, like I say, originated from Monty Python. And I started writing sketches, and that's how the writing came along. So I've always been influenced by Python from a writing point of view, as I've already mentioned. And then the Marx Brothers were my next influence, and that was from a performance point of view, because Groucho, at the time when I first discovered him, and right to now, I've always just considered him to be the most perfect comedy performer. He's just got the timing and the movements and the delivery. He's got everything absolutely perfect. So he's always been my aspiration. So there's writing and performing sorts. From a directorial point of view, I don't really know. I guess I don't consider myself a proper director, because I just sort of like have an idea in my head of what my script should look like, and I try and film it, and I pinch lots of good directors' ideas, you know, lots of ways that they use the camera, like Spielberg and Tim Burton and Terry Gilliam, people like that. I suppose Tarantino to an extent, but he's far more. I mean, he is a director. If you see what I mean, he's far more about the style of a piece, and I'm not too interested in the style, more the content.
Right.
Not that I'm saying he doesn't have content, but I think he's, you know, nobody's going to argue that he's not a stylistic director.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't really consider myself to be stylistic in that sense.
According to legend, the gerrymanders are the souls of those who fell victim to the probiotic fever of the apocalypse. And when the time is right, they will return to take their revenge on those who were self-righteous enough to survive.
So when I said, who were the gerrymanders, technically then I was right.
Well, technically yes, but we prefer to regard them as a what.
In the script,
Yeah.
one of the recurring plot devices are mangoes.
Yes, mangoes.
Is that an analogy for anything? Or did you have an agenda behind putting them in?
Not consciously, no. It may under some kind of psychological examination, it may have some hidden meaning, but not that I'm aware. In fact, I think the whole mangoes thing, it reminds me of someone interviewed Douglas Adams once about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which he kind of pieced together over years and years and years. And like when you read the books, the guy who was interviewing him said that the books seem to continually come into conclusions. It refers back to things that you spoke about in the first book and concludes it, like the thing about the bowl of, I can't remember, the bowl of flowers that appears in space.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and its only thought was, oh no, not again. And then several books later, that it's explained why it had the thought, oh no, not again. And when they interviewed him, he just sort of said, oh, it's accident. You know, it's something to do with the style that he writes. Is that he often would go round and, as far as he was concerned, completely by accident, come back to something and conclude it in a way of like getting lots of loose ends and just kind of sticking them together, and it leads the story into a certain direction. And I find that seems to happen with my writing as well. Is that I think the idea of Gogol being obsessed with mangoes was just like a way of portraying the fact that Gogol's loony, and then the mangoes, just through the writing, became sort of useful to use the mangoes as part of the plot, and then they eventually come out as being integral to the whole storyline. So I don't think, like say on a conscious level, that's intended to be anything other than just a plot point, but it could be. It could be.
We've got a visitor on the eastern perimeter. He claims he's Jesus Christ.
What does he look like?
Jesus Christ.
Really?
For the pseudonym, he's the spitting image.
I can't remember where it was or what it was, but I had an idea that it would be funny to have Jesus in something so that Jesus could be moaning about his situation, and somebody turned to him and casually say, "Oh, don't be a martyr." Because to say "don't be a martyr" in the modern sense is a completely, I mean, it refers to that, but it's a completely different thing. It's like, you stop complaining. And I thought, oh, that'd be quite funny actually to use that modern context in its in the biblical sort of setting. And so I decided, right, I'm going to have to put Jesus in something that I'm writing. And what I was writing at the time was the Gerrymanders. And then again, I had to justify Jesus being in it, so I turned him into a hallucination. And as far as my intentions with Jesus being in it, is that it's not intended to offend, but if it does, that's unfortunate, you know. Well, I don't know if it is unfortunate actually, but I often find that people who get offended about things usually deserve to be offended.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge in this project so far?
The weather. By a long way, the weather's been the biggest challenge. We booked an area to film it that's nice and big and bleak. It's a scout camp, and obviously during winter time it's not used. So we thought, oh, we'll book it for the winter. We'll book it for a couple of months. And January was just awful weather-wise. And unfortunately, you know, when it's a bit nasty just outside our window, when you get up there where it's, you know, desolate plains for forever. It just the weather seems to be 10 times worse, and it's not so much that we're wussies and we didn't want to go out and film in the cold, because we're not, you know, dedicated filmmakers. It's a question of the fact that when you get up there, you literally can't speak because the wind's so bad that it was just impossible to film anything, and the camera at one point blew over. So we've had a lot of problems. In fact, that's the only sort of adversity we've had, I think. Is the weather.
Who came up with the legend?
Don't ask who came up with this legend, ask what.
All right then, what came up with this legend?
Brother Pancreas saw a vision in his dream.
Brother Pancreas? So it was a who then?
No. Because it was the dream that revealed it to him. So it was a what, not a who.
Would you say that for the character of Jesus in the film, a good synopsis is that he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy?
Yes, actually. Yes. That rounds him up completely, because he really isn't the Messiah. But then neither was Brian. But he is a naughty boy because he goes around and just pretty much does what he wants and tries to lead people to their death. So that's the image of Jesus in this film, and not Jesus Christ himself, who obviously would never do such a terrible thing.
Beware the Gerrymanders! Beware the Gerrymanders! Beware the Gerrymanders!